She said that American soccer fans, most of them aren't smart. They don't know the game. They don't understand.
Gio.
That guy Gazpacho.
Sports can take a lame gorilla, okay?
Advice, did you know that Arsenal died?
He's got me buzzing.
Up the TOFFEEs. It's hard to up them anyway.
I'm not even gonna comment on that. Welcome back to Footy with the boys. The return of your host, Flags here, joined as always by Mike Tracy, and Nick Valderrama. Mike, we might have to work on a nickname. We might need to worshop something for you.
I will never change that. It'll be there for the rest of this pod.
Mike, quote unquote, Mike Tracy is about as original as it gets. We could at least go Mike Tracy, but no, it's just Mike Tracy.
Don't use my govy.
Nonetheless, a hell of an episode here for us, boys. We got some Champions League to talk about, some bangers of matchups. Dare I say it? I'm a fan of this new whatever format. We're getting some good matchups. There's kind of some bangers that you're not going to see a lot of games against terrible teams or big teams. You're seeing some fun ones here. We'll get through some Gunners, some Toffees previews, as well as a featured matchup, Aston Villa and Manchester United. We'll get into all of that, as well as the Premier League rundown, the U.S. men's national team corner ahead of Mauricio Pochettino's first roster release tomorrow, Wednesday, whatever day is that you're watching this. Then we'll get into our Lock of the Week contest to close it out. But boys, let's start with a little big news, and that is the Champions League here. Nick, Arsenal might just be goddamn legit. Going into PSG, no Dembele because he has some behavioral issues, I suppose. And Arsenal go in there and smack him 2-0. What an absolute peach of a free kick by Bukayo Saka. Gianluca Busio-esque type bouncer into the back of the net. But nevertheless, a 2-0 win against PSG is rather massive. And Kai Havertz scores again. The big man. Scoring another header. What does this mean for Arsenal here? They looked very good against Man City. Obviously had that, say, just bullshit red card, and that kind of derailed a bit of that game. But they've looked very good against Man City. Look very good here against PSG. Are they a Champions League contender, you think, here?
Listen, I think it's important to echo the words of our captain, Bukayo Saka, leading the boys out at the Emirates under the lights of the Champions League. Love to see it. Warms your heart. He said we haven't really proven it against the biggest teams in Europe so far in European competitions. This was a big opportunity to do that. And we did. 2-0 is a good result. I know PSG dominated possession that second half, but as soon as we get that 2-0, you know it's going to be that low block that Arteta's got drilled into them. So great result, even at home versus a strong PSG side. With some good players, by the way. That Mendes, that left back kid, he's legit. Vitinha's legit. They have a lot of really Barcola was, I think, their best player. Really good. So I'm impressed with the result. It's time. It's part of the steps of this project, right? We're competing now for the Premier League. We're getting big results against Europe at home. The next step, probably take that away. But everything's looking up from this project. I don't think it's a stretch to call us contenders in Europe. And just like he said to TT right after the game, he said, hey, is this the year? And Saka said, I don't want to put pressure on us, but I really think it is. And so that is how I am feeling. We are level on points with City. We are, a draw after a really difficult fixture against Atalanta and a win in PSG. We're looking good and things are pointing up. Timber away for 45 minutes today, just some tightness in the muscle, but more importantly, Marino makes his debut for Arsenal today. Looks great too. So a lot of things turning in the right direction. It's an exciting time to be a Gunner for sure.
Yeah, exciting times indeed, Mike. It seems like Arsenal they've bridged that gap to be up there with the City and fighting for that Premier League title. It seemed like they were still a little bit off in terms of Champions League and being kings of all of Europe, not just England. Is this maybe a sign that they're bridging that gap as well? That maybe we see them in the world of the cities, the Inters, the Real Madrids that are at the top of Europe itself, not just their domestic league?
I think so. I think with their full squad, they're super dangerous. I thought they might bridge that gap last year, and we're kind of disappointing against Bayern, but we're missing some key players. This year with everybody available, especially Timber, Calafiori. I mean, that back line is legit.
Both of them are so good.
And going forward, I mean, they're so much better than what Ben White and Zinchenko offered last year, at least in my opinion. I think Marino's huge. Even in his short cameo, he looked very impressive. So yeah, I think this is a real chance for them to prove something in this competition. 1 point, you had mentioned that you like this new format. My one gripe with the format is we won't get to see Arsenal play at PSG, play at the Parc des Princes, because I want to see that return fixture. I thought this was good. I thought Donnarumma was really poor on the day, taking nothing away from Arsenal. But trying to beat PSG at home is another story. They're still a dangerous team, and I'd like to see the second fixture. We'll see some of those when we get to knockout stages, but it'll just be a little different in the group.
Yeah. I will say, I kind of like, though, that with the new format, you're seeing a bunch of different matchups, and it's not going to be, hey, this team got absolutely murdered, and now they're just going to get murdered again in another game down the road.
That's also fair.
Just kind of rules out some games of interest. Speaking of games of interest, especially for Americans here, Milan faced off against Leverkusen, and their struggles continued in the Champions League after losing against Liverpool. They lose again here versus Leverkusen, so some wins are going to be needed here. Paulo Fonseca, as much as he relieves pressure by winning the Milan derby for the first time in 7 games, now has 2 losses out of 2 in the Champions League. It does not help out that pressure that be put on him. Pulisic in this one, I mean, set up Tijani Reinders with a peach. Just take it one time and it's a guaranteed goal. Instead, he decides to cut it back 12 times like he's Zlatan Ibrahimovic and then blast it into the defender. So that does not help a situation. But Leverkusen 1-0 in this one, get the win. Mike, are Leverkusen the real deal here? Are they a team to take serious in the Champions League, or is it maybe too early to tell still? I know obviously they had the amazing season last season.
You have to take them serious. I mean, they're a very strong team, had a great season last year, have some dangerous players. That being said, I still think they're a cut below the real contenders. They lack real star power. The middle of the field is still a weak point for them, I believe. And they're such an attacking team that they can get exposed on the counter pretty easily with teams who have real pace on the wings. And I think we'll see that happen at some point in the competition.
Yeah. And certainly a maybe second tier of contenders still waiting to be proven. And
second tier sounds
maybe,
right. Yeah.
Maybe with them in that is an Aston Villa who did not have the undefeated season, did not win a title, but they have a lot of very impressive players. They're going to be playing up against tomorrow Bayern Munich, Nick. This seems like a very exciting matchup. Bayern Munich, with all the talent they have, Harry Kane up top and in wild form, as well as Villa just scoring goals. They have multiple goals in just about every game they play. What do you expect out of this one here? Bayern versus Aston Villa.
Yeah, I believe it's at Villa Park. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's a home game for Villa. I'm expecting a Villa win. I don't know. I think at home in the Champions League, that matters more than you think it does. I think they're going to put every single piece of their squad to play this weekend. No rotation. It's going to be this midweek. It's going to be their strongest 11. And I'm looking for Villa to make a statement here. No disrespect to Bayern, who's looked good to start the year. Elise is absolutely killing it. And I could very well be wrong, but I don't know. Vibes, Villa under the lights. I think they get a result here.
Yeah, I think as long as Villa don't go down early, I think they have a pretty good shot at that. But Vincent Kompany has the boys firing. They're scoring a shit ton of goals in their games, albeit
incredible.
Maybe not tested the most yet. Had a draw against Leverkusen, I believe, is their really hardest game. But Vincent Kompany not looking too shabby as that new manager at Bayern Munich.
Really quickly, really quickly for Milan. I mean, Liverpool and Leverkusen is just about as hard as it can get to start your Champions League campaign. So we'll see how the rest of the group stage goes, because that's got to be 2 of their harder games. Arsenal, Atalanta, and PSG is really hard too. So really happy with 4 points. But for Milan, I think you gotta let's wait and see on them in the Champions League. I don't want to just X them off just yet.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 losses at the first 2. You're not looking at that top 8, but certainly getting into that next 16 for the playoff rounds. They have a lot of their easier matchups towards the end of their schedule here, so we'll see them probably rack up some points late to get into that.
Quick
area.
question for the 16, like the top 20, like 24 to 8 or whatever. Is that 2 legs or is it just a playoff like one-off game? Do we know?
I'm not 100% sure. Mike, do you know?
Okay.
It's a playoff. Yeah. So the top teams, the
top 8 goes straight through.
Through.
Top 8 goes straight through. The 16
And then 9 to 24.
And then they play a home and away. So they have an extra.
So it's a 2. Okay, got it.
Yeah. That's how it works. Yep.
All right. 2 legs. I trust them. Trust them to get through. Pulisic will get at least 10 goals in those 2 legs.
Oh, sure.
I believe. Oh, sure. I'm sure some of the people in our comments would not believe that. There's some anti-American bias out there.
Oh, my God. People disrespecting the ball knowledge. Oh, my God.
Very mixed bag, yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, he is absurd form. But let's get into that later. The U.S. men's national team corner. Let's start with the Arsenal Gunners taking on Southampton.
Shout out Barcelona real quick. They also won today.
Great.
Okay, against Young Boys.
We played Young Boys, but we won 5-0. Back on track,
nice.
baby. After losing to Monaco, heading in the right direction.
I forgot about
They
that.
couldn't handle Ballo.
What is Young Boys?
Oh, you know all about Young Boys.
A Swiss team. Barcelona are also Young Boys, so kind of the Young Boys versus Young Boys action.
Yeah, that's why
Almost
Mike likes him so much.
Hey,
Arsenal Southampton. Arsenal Southampton. Nick.
Yes.
It was an interesting game against Leicester. A lot of chances created, an absurd amount, really. Saka setting records. Timber had like 5 chances created himself. He went crazy as well. Southampton have looked pitiful. I mean, how much do we expect out of this game? Is it just going to be a smashing of Southampton here, or do you think Southampton pose some type of challenges to Arsenal? Will Arsenal overlook them in any way with big Champions League matchups and certainly bigger games than this on the horizon?
Listen, I mean, the Arsenal versus Leicester City game, make no mistake, we talked about it Sunday. It was 2-2 in extra time, but that was Arsenal total domination. With that being said, there was a real 8 to 10 minute time span where Arsenal switched off, and at the very least, the second goal, I mean, it was an absolute wonder goal, but Arsenal kind of had it coming. They kind of switched off. They lost their formation defensively. They lost their shape, and so it wasn't incredibly surprising, although, again, Arsenal completely dominated. I think that 3 points and that happening is Mikel Arteta's like wet dream, because now he can just harp on the boys this weekend saying, look, boys, what should theoretically be our easiest fixture of the entire year, you switched off for 8 minutes last game and you made it nervy at the end. We can't switch off for a second. I said last week, we'd get a 2-0 win, ended up being 4-2, but I think this one's going to be a demolishing. I'm thinking 4-5-0 for Arsenal. Look for Marino to get in the starting lineup. I really want Nwaneri to start. He's looked incredible. It probably will be Trossard, because Trossard's playing really well too. Had a great game today. But Rice back at the 6, Marino and likely Trossard in that midfield. I mean, Southampton's been worse than pitiful, and I think we're going to hold a sword to him this weekend.
I mean, Trossard just, on that first goal in the Champions League, just dribbled with zero pressure put on him and then crosses it in right in front of Havertz's head and right in front of the keeper. So if PSG is defending like that, Southampton probably not going to do much better. And I mean, I think this is one of those games, Nick, where you don't want to overlook it, because you kind of want to run up the score, because you saw last season as we got down to it, it was, they need a draw, they need a win, they need all these things. But a lot of it came down to also goal differential and thinking, well, they have the advantage here over Man City on goal differential. That's huge. And it was going back and forth. I think this is one where you have to look to absolutely demolish them, get a lot of goals, get confidence going, and get that goal differential started. Mike, on the other side for Everton, we're facing off against Newcastle. They just played Manchester City, got a draw, and realistically have looked decent this season. I don't think that they've looked like world beaters, but they've also gotten just good results and gotten the results really that they need. Albeit without, any type of crazy dominance and, oh my gosh, Newcastle could go on some crazy run. They're doing what they need. Everton has not so much, but just coming off of their first victory, seems like maybe things can be a little bit better with Branthwaite back. Everton's at home. 3 points, are they possible here for Everton?
Shout out Tyler Dibbling on Southampton, another young boy. Keep an eye on him, Nick. Are 3 points possible? Yes, 3 points. It's possible. I don't expect that to occur. I think a draw is a lot more likely for us. It's going to be a spicy affair. Everton and Newcastle games have been full of shithousery the last couple of years. They really hate Jordan Pickford. Makes sense. He's from Sunderland. So expect some taunting. Probably some T-Rex blow-ups in the Newcastle stands, making fun of his short arms. And he's looked like shit recently, so hopefully he backs it up. I'm optimistic, though. I mean, after dissing my goalkeeper, my captain, I am optimistic. We showed really well last week. Newcastle, have been pretty good this season. They're still banged up, though. Don't have their best 11 out there. And we'll be fired up for this match. I mean, we're playing against Anthony Gordon. The defense will obviously know that. There's tension there. I think we'll be fully switched on. A win at home is definitely inspiring. So the mentality will be risen. And I like the 11 that we're putting out there. I'm not going to say that we're going to go out there and win this game. I can't. Newcastle's obviously still the better side. But I think we can perform. I think the 11 needs to be the same. I've seen some fans, Everton Twitter, talking about Patterson coming back. He played again for the U21s just a few days ago, another 60-minute. So he is back, ready to go. But Ashley Young was phenomenal against Crystal Palace. And maybe that's just a one-off, but I think you have to back your players when they perform well. So I fully expect him to start. The rest of the back line takes care of itself. Tarkowski and Branthwaite, Mikolenko on the left. Nobody's going to unseat those guys. And then I think you keep the rest of it the same. I was calling for Igor Bunam and Mangala to start next to each other, but I think Mangala and Decore worked well together against Crystal Palace, even though we let up some chances. So I don't think you change that. And then the attacking four has to be the same. All those guys are playing well. I think Jack Harrison will feature at some point, like always. And how we win this game is set pieces, for sure. Can we capitalize on them? And can we be defensively solid? Because Newcastle will rip us apart if we let them go on a counter.
I mean, Newcastle are a good team, should be expected to win this game. I don't think you can say Everton should expect to win this or really expect to get a draw, maybe hope for the draw and hope a little bit more strongly for a win. But I don't think it's out of possibility with Everton. They, against a better Aston Villa side, were up 2-0. They bottled the hell out of that game. But Dwight McNeil's in some very good form right now. You have Ndiaye, who is also looking good in the attack. You have some things to be positive about. They've been able to score some goals, so can they do that against a Newcastle side here that look not invincible, to say the least? I think Everton certainly has the chance for some points there, and I would take a draw. I'd be very happy with just at least 1 point there, getting something on the board in a big game.
I would certainly take a draw. That will carry over huge. I mean, the next two fixtures are super easy compared to Newcastle. So carrying a streak, some momentum into those would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into our featured matchup here. Manchester United, the Red Devils, going up against Aston Villa. Boys, if you're talking historically, Manchester United versus Aston Villa, I don't know if there's ever been a time that Aston Villa has been so wildly more favored in a game than this one right here. Manchester United just got demolished by Tottenham. Erik ten Hag is not looking good. I mean, when does he get fired? Is it after this game? If Aston Villa just demolishes Manchester United, is it over for Erik ten Hag? He won 2 trophies though, Nick.
Listen, he needs to be embarrassed. That's the only way. He needs to be knocked down a peg. It's the last game was embarrassing, but there's still that crutch that they can always use of, oh, it was a bad red card. It got rescinded, which was probably the right call. But still,
they drew in the Europa League. Where's the embarrassment there?
I mean, who cares about the Europa League? I really think that it has to be. This is honestly the perfect opportunity. If he loses 4-0, I don't see him lasting until the next week. I really don't. They were about to fire him over the weekend over the summer, until all of a sudden they changed their mind for really no apparent reason outside of Poch not being interested, I guess. So I don't know. It's getting borderline ridiculous. The man is hubris personified, and he has just nothing to be cocky about and is always cocky. Doesn't know what he's talking. I'm starting to feel for Man U fans, which is not a position that I like being in. And so hopefully they keep him. Hopefully they shithouse their way to a draw because Villa, will be contending for top 4. So let's knock them down a peg. The one saving grace is, Villa is playing midweek versus Bayern. So you assume they will exert a lot of energy there, and maybe Man U has a chance, but I mean, my Man U top 4 take is getting worse by the second at this point in the season.
Yeah, that is a freezing cold take at this point. That is a tough one.
Yeah.
Mike, as an Everton fan, you say Manchester United having Erik ten Hag makes some more games winnable for Everton because Manchester United could lose to anyone, really. However, it also means, as just an enjoyer of the game, that Manchester United, this historically massive club that has so much money and so many good players usually, is just not at all at that level.
Usually.
And it takes away from a lot of would-be really great matchups. How much did Erik ten Hag need to go just for the love of the goddamn game here? I mean, Manchester United needs to get back to some level of relevancy here.
They've been shit for a decade. I mean, it's not just a Ten Hag problem. He's obviously the man at the wheel right now, so it's going to fall
worse.
on him.
It's worse than it has been.
It's maybe
the
worst it's been.
Mourinho brought it back up a little bit,
ever.
But it's been really bad for a long time compared to their level. I mean, they were the highest level of world soccer, at least English soccer, and they're nowhere near that. The players are not bought in. I think at the very least, a new manager will boost morale and give them something to fight for, because there is no fight at the moment. There definitely is some quality within the squad. You look up and down, the money they've spent, the names that they have. There are quality players. None of them are playing like it. Marcus Rashford is a shell of himself, has been for a while. Matthijs de Ligt looks okay, looked horrible against Tottenham. I mean, Ugarte is supposed to be a special midfielder. Shit.
Sucked.
Up and down the board, everyone is underperforming. I mean, I think Xerxes is a solid striker, but aside from one goal early in the season, he's been anonymous. Bruno's been nowhere to be found. None of these guys are performing. That's got enough ownership for sure. They brought in new owners. They talked about how it was going to change this summer. They couldn't commit to backing Ten Hag, and they also couldn't commit to sacking him. They kind of let him be in limbo and then ended up sticking with him. So what does that say to the fans? Do we support him or do we not? They set the completely wrong tone there, and that's what you get. I mean, that's how you start the season when that's how you prepare. So do they need a new manager? Certainly. Will it help in the long run? I'm not sure. I think they could hire a guy, and we're talking about this same thing a year down the line.
I mean, you say similar things to Chelsea. They were in a similar boat 2-3 years ago where they were in 12th and they were looking awful. And they bring in a Pochettino and they bring in some young players, and they brought in a lot of young players, but still they brought some young players and they start to make their way up the table. And then they want to go a different way. They bring in more players. They bring in Enzo Maresca, and they continue to make their way up the table with what it looks like now, some promise. Manchester United, like you said, it's been a while where they've just been sputtering, and moving backwards now, and the investments they make, like you say in Ugarte, I mean, I just don't think he's a Premier League center defensive mid. He's not physical, fast enough, I don't think, for league. He doesn't fit perfectly. I think the investment's off, the coaching's off. It's going the opposite way for Manchester United.
And they're trying to throw money at they spent $200 million this summer, guys. Let's not act like they're playing with scrubs. Just like Mike, there are names in the $200 million is an insane amount of money for any summer. The same summer where they almost fired their manager. So sure, they waffled a bit at the beginning, but they supported him after, and they're just backing the wrong guy. No one who comes to play for Man U looks better than what they were before. Not a single person. Bruno for like half a season did. That is it. Everyone else has declined, be it because of age or be it because of the shit toxic environment that they've created. So that a completely new facelift is needed for this team. And it starts with the manager. We've changed the ownership. Well, next up is the manager. He's got to go. I'm sick of it. The rivalry doesn't even feel alive anymore. It's turning from hatred to pity really quick.
You know what? If Manchester United win this game against Aston Villa, I'm sure that will buy Erik ten Hag like 3 or 4 extra weeks, no matter what happens after it. I mean, Manchester United give him such a leash. A win here against Aston Villa would be justification for them to keep him for so long. It'd be ridiculous. It'd be comical.
They're 13th. They're 13th in the league, guys. They suck. Like, come on.
They're 11th in the Europa League. they drew against Twente, who's not even doing that well in the Eredivisie. I mean,
oh boy.
That's what you get when you sell your best player. Adios, Scott McTominay.
Adios, Lukaku. Should have never gotten rid of him. Let's go to the rest of the Premier League for the rundown. We have Crystal Palace. Their season has been awful. In a word, they're going to be going up against Liverpool, so does not get any easier for them. Tottenham will be going up against Brighton. Sneaky good matchup, I think. See a lot of fireworks this one, a lot of games, or a lot of goals, I mean, out of this one.
This is a very even matchup.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Fabian Hertzler versus Ange Postecoglou, 2 interesting managers, 2 interesting and talented teams. One to certainly keep an eye on. Chelsea versus Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest just getting their first loss of the season. Chelsea looking like they're maybe moving in the right direction. Will certainly want to keep their momentum going. Manchester City, after a draw versus Newcastle, will go into a Fulham side that has looked pretty decent this season, so might hold another test for them. Brentford will be going up against Wolves. We'll see if the Bees can get buzzing. If games were only 1 minute long, they may be the hottest team in the Premier League, but God damn it, those remaining 89 minutes are their Achilles heel. West Ham facing off against Ipswich Town. If there is a time for West Ham to prove that they are an actually good team, and these signings that we all hyped up are actually going to pay off, this would certainly be the game to do so. Also, a side note, Mohamed Kudus was at the Arsenal versus PSG game. Take of that as you will.
Yes, he was, baby.
Leicester City is going to be playing up against Bournemouth. Bournemouth, Semenyo is a great player. Great player. He's been on some form here to start the season, so interested to see him against a Leicester City side and what the Cherries can do. Mike, what game catches your eye the most out of this slate? Some pretty good ones, honestly.
They're all shite.
Jesus Christ.
I'm only watching the Everton game. No, I'm just kidding. I think the Fulham Man City one's a little interesting. I think Leicester Bournemouth. I mean, there's some good matchups. Like Nick said, Brighton Tottenham's good. I'd favor whoever's at home. Brighton in this case. Brentford Wolves. I think Brentford are obviously better. This is a good game for Nick. Nick's been hyping up the Wolves, even though they've yet to record any wins.
They've looked good, bro. I'm just saying.
But apparently they've looked
also
good.
A known Thomas Frank lover.
And he loves Thomas
Frank. Yeah, I'm going to be locked in on
Derby. Yeah, locked into pretty much any game. I mean, Crystal Palace has been shit as well, but I think they'll put in a good performance against Liverpool because why not? I still believe there is something in that team, and they got to show it at some point. Might as well be this week.
Yeah, I mean, they had insane form with Ollie Glasner last season. You'd think at a certain point it does come out. Nick, what about you? What game catches your eye the most here?
Everything that Mike said, I agree with. The Brentford Wolves one we'll definitely be watching. Hopefully Junior Gunners can do us a favor against City. But honestly, I'm really interested in this West Ham Ipswich game, which might sound weird, but this feels like the last opportunity for West Ham to salvage their season, if I'm being honest. Like, if they can't get 3 points versus Ipswich, heads might start rolling. There was already, Kudus, like you said, at the game today, and apparently he and Lopetegui got into a little row during halftime in the last game. Things look like they're crumbling, and for a team that all three of us were excited for this season, it has not been a good start to the year. So they need something, and they need it fast, and they need 3 points this weekend.
Or
should have never gotten rid of Moyes.
Ipswich can get their first win.
Okay. I mean, that would be a storyline. If Ipswich Town beat West Ham, I'd be completely out on West Ham.
We're staying up, baby.
And
I'm out on West Ham with a draw, dude. Like,
I'm out. Yeah. If they don't get the 3 points, I'm pretty much out on just West Ham in general. Because
this is kind of make or break for them.
I had high hopes, man. I had high hopes for them. I was banking on being good, especially just with all the signings they've made. Listen, David Moyes wouldn't have him here. That's all I'm saying. He won a European trophy with them, god damn it. And he was sent to the curb. It's not right.
What will he do for Everton?
What will he do for Everton? Maybe another European trophy.
Win, dude. Give me a Conference League win. That's all I ask for.
Does that still
You'll
exist?
never sing that.
It does still exist. Yes.
That's what Chelsea's playing it, brother.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Shout out to Chelsea. They might win that.
They got a game this Thursday. Watch out.
Oh, flags really quick. Mike and I both called Chelsea our top 4 favorites based on the first 8 weeks.
I did hear that.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I think
so.
It's City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea are top 4.
Is that disrespectful to Villa?
That might be a little disrespectful to Villa, but I think those two
Champions League, though.
Pretty close. I think those two are very close.
Palmer at the 10.
I sound like such a fraud by saying Chelsea's in my top 4 because I was shitting on DeMarest. Bringing him in, I said it wasn't going to work, and then I'm not sure where I put him in my top 6 or not, but they are now.
They are now. We can revisit that as we get later in the season. What we predicted here for the start of the season, we did do a predictor for our top 6 and bottom 3, and I did have Nottingham Forest in my bottom 3, and that's not looking too hot at the moment. But it's a long season. I have faith that they'll shit the bed. Boys, let's get into the U.S. men's national team corner before the first Mauricio Pochettino roster is released on Wednesday, October 2nd in the morning. U.S. Soccer has already teased it. Boys, what do we expect from this one? I know a lot of people are saying that Mauricio Pochettino is so different. He's going to shake up everything. I'm kind of under the assumption that's going to be relatively the same with maybe 1 or 2 surprises. Are you guys on that same boat? Do you think it's going to be major shocking surprises? Do you think it's going to be, oh, yeah, this is the exact same roster? Or what are you expecting, Mike? Well, his internet sucks,
I'm
Nick,
back.
so we're going with you.
I
think I don't think anything can surprise me, you know? Like, I think I can expect anything at this point. The only thing that would really surprise me is one of our main guys being dropped who's on form, which, really is just Pulisic. Like, if he drops Pulisic, then yes, I'll be surprised. But, even McKennie, I know, has gone back in the Juventus starting 11. I wouldn't be shocked if he's not on there, just trying to give other guys a look. I think he will be, for the record, but I wouldn't be completely shocked. Wouldn't be shocked if he drops a guy like Pepe. Wouldn't be shocked if he drops a guy even like Ballo, even though, again, I expect at least Ballo to be on there. Maybe not Pepe, I don't know. But that's really all I'm seeing. I'm wondering if it's going to be like some guy added that we haven't really heard of, or at least me and Mike, because Flags has heard of every American under the sun. But it might be interesting there. I am excited to see the roster, but if I'm being honest, I want to see them play. What's he going to do? What are the tactics? What's it going to look like? What's the formation going to look like? So I think whoever is there, he's going to get the most out of them. He's known for doing that. And excited to see who gets a shot. It's definitely going to be a big confidence boost to whoever gets that call up, because first one under a new manager is a big deal.
Yeah. Well, with Chris Richards out, I heard there is a center back from Chicago Rec Leagues, a certain Mike, quote unquote, Mike Tracy, coming to the USMNT national team.
Tracy, not as fast as he used to
I
be.
hate to break that news here in front of you, Mike.
Tim Ream would give me a race, and I don't think I'd win it. So please don't call me up for everybody's sake. I don't think there is that much that could surprise me, like Nick said. But my reasoning being, I don't think our player pool is all that deep. Like, I don't think there are that many names he can pull out of his hat. We know who the guys are for the most part. The only thing that could surprise me is if he pulls out some like dual nat who he didn't know was going to be involved. One that comes to mind is that Stuttgart center back. I think he's Japanese as well.
Arnie Chase.
Yeah. Like
His
if
name's
he was
Arnie.
if he pulled him into camp, I'd be like, holy shit. I mean, look at the pull of Poch. This is a statement. There's a few goalkeepers who fall into that as well, but I'm not expected to be surprised. I think he'll keep it pretty standard, get to know the guys a little bit. The bigger surprises will probably be in the tactics and in the starting 11 rather than the roster itself.
Sneaky John Brooks.
He doesn't have a club at the moment, so I would say
love me some
probably
Johnny
not.
Brooks. Get him back.
Sneaky John Brooks. Bundesliga 2, I thought.
I think what the surprise may be, or surprise for maybe most, obviously I'm predicting it here, so it's probably not too big of surprises, is in the goalkeeper department. I mean, Ethan Horvath has been dropped to the second string of the championship, so he's, I'd imagine, just not in.
Retire blood.
I don't know if he's going to be calling it Gaga Slonina. There is no international break for League One, and he's also young. Dio Kochin has a slight injury, so he's out. You're kind of getting thin on names, so Matt Turner is probably in, and then I think you see two MLS goalkeepers. I think
Bring back
we're
Zach
seeing
Steffen, baby.
Zach Steffen, and that
Oh,
is
God.
that's what some reports are saying. But I think the other massive part is the striker position, because for so long we've just been bringing in every fucking striker under the sun just because. We've got Sargent, who got 2 assists on the weekend and a goal today. We had Haji get back in the goal tally again today. You have Balogun scoring in 2 straight games. You have Pepe scoring a brace on his first start of the season for PSV. Is Pochettino going to bring 4 kind of strikers? I know Haji now plays more of the wing second striker position, but is he going to bring all 4 of those players, you think?
Daryl DK's almost back. Room for 5?
5. Hey, I do think that Ballo would be the biggest name that could be left off, because just the way he plays, and for Poch, I mean, the way Poch plays, I don't think he's going to be left off. I think he's our most talented striker, but he doesn't really fit the profile of what Poch usually likes at his number 9.
He's a similar drop into the center, kind of like what Harry Kane did at Tottenham, though. He likes to drop in and
But he's not so much like a creator. He's more like an interchange guy. You know what I mean? Like Harry Kane could drop in and spray a ball out wide and really like get play going that way. He's more of like quick 1-2s, which wasn't really Kane's play, I don't think. So I think he likes a little bit more size at the 9. That could be the only thing that really surprises me. But again, I expect Ballo to get a start during the international break, and I expect him to be in the roster, of course. So I think bringing all 4 is fine. I really want to see Sargent get a real shot with this national team. I feel like we haven't seen him play in a U.S. shirt in forever.
I can guarantee he'll pick up a slight knock right before he's supposed to start.
I'll cry, bro. I really do think that he could be at least what I'm looking for out of the 9. So I hope Poch sees it too.
Yeah. I mean, at the World Cup, he was certainly looking great before that ankle injury, but that is once again the story of him. He always has some slight knock when it comes to international football. It's tough. Mike, you were about to say something?
I wanted to ask, what is the roster size for this window?
So actually, Palmer, that brings up the next point. You want to bring up that tweet here. This is Tactical Manager, so not 100% accurate here, but about 26. That is if Weah can make it. He has a knock to his ankle at the moment, but 26 players, so a little bit bigger than the usual 23 or 24. And 2 new names he is reporting is Zach Steffen and Gianluca Busio. Miles Robinson also expected to make the roster. What are your thoughts? 26 players, so certainly room for players to be added in that aren't necessarily in previous rosters, but Zach Steffen, Busio, Robinson, I think of those 3, really the only one I care about is Busio, and I think that one is pretty deserved at this point.
I think it's big. I think you need to bring in as many names. I don't hate the bigger squad. I think it's going to be 2 completely different 11s, and it should be. It's his first time with these players, and let's see who you like, who works in your system, and who's really going to give it all for the shirt. So I like it. We've talked a lot about the limited amount of windows we have, but I still think you need 2, maybe arguably 3 windows to really figure out who Poch's guys are, and then really drill it in as in the lead up to the World Cup of what we're going to be.
Mike, is there any name that Poch brings in and you go, I'm doubting Poch on this one a little bit?
Not really. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. I think he shouldn't cross anybody off the list until he's had a chance to work with him.
Jackson Ewell, welcome back to the U.S. men's national team, baby.
We'll get Jackson Ewell and Jordan Peacock back. Shout
Jordan
out to
Morris.
Jordan Morris for sure.
Jordan Morris actually has 14 goals as a striker in MLS.
Don't give a shit.
He's a better shout. He's a better shout than you think.
I don't give a shit. I have a name for you.
Brandon Vasquez.
Okay.
A name that he shouldn't bring. Ricardo Pepi.
You hate Ricardo Pepi. We know this.
I do hate Ricardo.
You're not on the Pepi train.
No, yeah,
no names. I mean, if he brings Brad Guzan, I'll be a little concerned, but that's about it.
Would you, though, with our goalkeeping situation? Who else the fuck is he going to bring?
He's been waiting all this time. Aging like a fine wine.
Fine wine.
Like a block of cheese.
Pochettino's probably getting in like, what the fuck is going on with this goalkeeper situation? I thought that was the one thing Americans were that good at. But
more.
Certainly something to watch. Let us know in the comments as that roster comes out what you thought we got right, what you guys are excited about the roster here, and what you expect to see from it in these games against Panama and Mexico. Let's close it out here, boys, with our Lock of the Week competition. And ever since Mike posted on our Footy with the Boys Instagram that we were so good at making predictions, we have gone shit at these.
Yeah.
We have not had another week with all of us getting them right. We start with Mike not getting the Newcastle City one correct. That was a 1-1 draw.
That's
Nick did just barely, with the late goals from Arsenal, get that result right for Arsenal over Leicester. And goddamn it, Aston Villa didn't get it done against Ipswich Town. What the fuck? So
we're staying up.
I mean, take the L on that. The town gets their point. Mike, we need to turn around the tide here. What are you going with here for this one?
Well, the Villains didn't get it done against Ipswich, but they will get it done against Manchester United. Give me Villa 3, Man U 1, ass whooping. Man U will get a fluky goal, but domination from Villa.
Small club. Nick, what's your lock?
That's generous for Man U. I am going with our new top 4 favorites, Chelsea Football Club, getting a win versus, I'm going to call it the Frauds in Nottingham Forest, 3-1. I don't think they're for real.
Seems a bit harsh on Forest because
they haven't looked that great.
I think they're just happy to be there at this point, but I guess that does mean that they might be frauds. But
that's what I'm saying.
I've gone with the other frauds, more like financial fraud. Manchester City beating Fulham 2-0. I hope I'm incorrect and Anthony Jedi Robinson has a hat trick and beats them, but it's the inevitable. It's Man City. And
that's
Villa, Chelsea, and City. So pretty good. Yeah, I know. I just jinxed the absolute hell out of this, but I'm okay with that. If City end up losing or drawing, I'm A-okay with that. It's a win either way. Nick, big game against Southampton for the Gunners this weekend.
Huge.
What are your final thoughts going into that one?
Yeah, I'm at the edge of my seat, counting the days down until we kick off versus Southampton and Ben Brereton Diaz. Up the Gunners, huge win actually in Europe tonight, taking the clean sheet at home versus PSG. Excited for the rest of this season and excited to see this USMNT roster tomorrow. It's going to be an interesting one. We'll have all the information for you here, so make sure to stay tuned. Up the Gunners.
Up the Gunners. And Mike, big game for Everton actually against Newcastle here, hoping to get some points. Make sure to subscribe and like and comment. I'm going to say that before Mike says anything, just so that doesn't sway your opinion later, because who knows what he's going to say. But Mike, take it away. Close us out.
Up the Toffs, big game this weekend. Up everybody in our comment section. People were showing hate, love about the Pulisic. Is he world class? Is he top 10? Most people think no. And the comment statement I heard is Americans don't know ball. That might be true, but we do love our players and we love our fans too. Make sure to sound out in the comment section on why we're wrong this time. Thanks for joining. Flags, final words?
Final words? See us next time. Subscribe, like, join our Patreon, join our OnlyFans. Peace.
Peace.